Chapter 531, 305. Dragon and Phoenix? Just ants. The water dragon, stretching 10,000 meters long, coiled high above the battlefield, enveloping the area below in a dazzling blue sheen with its overpowering presence. Within that glimmer, the pitch-black aura surrounding the epic-level male alien from the land of oblivion was dissipating at a visible rate. In just a moment, it had completely vanished. The two black hands formed from the dark aura also dissipated simultaneously, allowing Yuan Dongji and Lu Chuanyu, who had been bound by them, to break free and plummet from the sky. Yuan Dongji, still conscious, immediately unleashed her spiritual power to slow her descent. At the same time, with the thought, she drew the free-falling Lu Chuanyu towards her. Otherwise, Lu Chuanyu's body, merely a ninth-order high level, would have smashed into the ground, turning into a gruesome splatter of crimson mush and ending his life definitively. Buzz! A sharp breaking sound suddenly erupted. The 10-kilometer water dragon above dove down at high speed, targeting the epic-level male alien from the land of oblivion below. Feeling the terrifying oppression emanating from the water dragon, the man knew he couldn't resist and chose to turn into a black mist to escape immediately. Unfortunately, he had barely escaped 100 meters before the water dragon caught up with him the very next second, striking him head-on and annihilating him completely. Witnessing an epic-level expert being killed so effortlessly, as easily as crushing an ant without so much as blowing off the dust, terrified all the alien races present. Instantly, all the aliens on the battlefield panicked and fled, losing their courage to continue their siege. The 10-kilometer water dragon in the sky was immense. It covered the sky and sun with its massive body. The oppressive atmosphere it released was overwhelming. Even the dragon and phoenix, whose biological levels reached the middle legendary order, felt uncontrollable fear and instinctively wanted to retreat in the face of this immense water dragon. Boom! 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 Series of thunderous noises followed. Numerous water columns shot up from the ocean. Under the watchful eyes of many creatures, these pillars quickly transformed into various high-order aquatic beings. There were mermaids wielding stone tridents, gorgons whose hair were all snakes, and the graceful and seductive deep-sea sirens. These high-order aquatic beings, formed from underground water, launched an attack at an unimaginable speed towards the fleeing aliens the very next second they completely materialized. In just the blink of an eye, hundreds to thousands of aliens were killed mercilessly. Under the assault of these water-formed beings, whether they were high-level creatures, rare creatures, or even epic-level creatures, all were instantly killed without the slightest resistance. The situation on the battlefield shifted from a complete rout of the Earth side to a total collapse of the alien side. Our side's powerhouses have come to support. We've been saved. Which powerhouse has arrived? Seeing the situation had completely reversed, an excited and exhilarated cheer erupted immediately above the sea. Among them, many wondered which Earth powerhouse had come to their aid. Among the publicly known strong Earth fighters, there seemed to be none who excelled in water combat. The same confusion arose in Yuan Dongji's mind. Her family in Nanjiang province, the foremost Yuan family, consisted of powerhouses proficient in water combat, counted among the top-notch globally. But even the strongest among these water combat experts had a biological level at epic ninth order, nowhere near capable of supporting such an exaggerated scene as the one unfolding before her eyes. So which powerhouse had come? Was it really from the Earth's side? Could it be some neutral alien powerhouse? Yuan Dongji was flooded with thoughts. As she was lost in her thoughts, the 10-kilometer water dragon in the sky suddenly changed direction and flew towards her. Faced with this sudden turn of events, she was momentarily at a loss, standing frozen in place. There was no escaping. The water dragon's power was at least at the legendary level. She, being a rare creature, even if her potential exploded by thousands or tens of thousands of times, would still be as slow as a snail in front of the 10-kilometer water dragon and would be caught up in an instant. Under these circumstances, she could only silently pray that the approaching water dragon was an ally. Soon, the sky-covering 10-kilometer water dragon circled above Yuan Dongji's head. A gigantic dragon head, like a mountain whose peak could not be seen, cast a cool blue shadow over Yuan Dongji. Facing such a colossal being, even Yuan Dongji, who typically had a strong psychological constitution, felt a natural fear creeping in, causing her legs to go weak and her head to involuntarily bow. Master! Suddenly, a soft and sweet voice came from the dragon's head. Yuan Dongji was familiar with this voice. Upon hearing it, she immediately looked up in the direction of the sound, and what she saw were three very familiar figures. They were Lin Zikan, Shen Qinghan, and Luo Qingxiu. How could it be the three of them? This 10-kilometer water dragon, is it controlled by Qinghan? But how is that possible? Yuan Dongji, eyes filled with shock and confusion, looked at the three figures standing on the dragon's head. Under her puzzled gaze, Shen Qinghan moved a thought, and a thin layer of water separated from the 10-kilometer water dragon, gently bringing herself, Lin Zikan, and Luo Qingxiu down before Yuan Dongji. Master, are you feeling all right? As soon as Shen Qinghan landed, she quickly stepped forward to check on Yuan Dongji. Chapter 532, 305, Dragon and Phoenix? Just ants _2. At this moment, Yuan Dongji's body was covered in shocking wounds, her face deathly pale, and she looked to be in a bad state. I'm fine. Yuan Dongji steadied her emotions and spoke in a weak voice. After speaking, she immediately asked, "What's the deal with this towering water dragon behind you?" As she asked, her gaze fell entirely on Shen Qinghan, suspecting the colossal water dragon might have been formed by Shen Qinghan manipulating groundwater. But then she thought it sounded preposterous, unrealistic, so she decided to ask the three of them directly. In response to Yuan Dongji's question, Shen Qinghan didn't hide anything. Master, I've evolved into a legendary level creature. This water dragon behind me is indeed created from my control of the underground water. You've evolved into a legendary level creature. Yuan Dongji's beautiful eyes widened in disbelief. How much time had passed? To evolve from a high-level creature to a legendary level creature just like that? Was that even plausible? Yuan Dongji doubted she was dreaming. In her mind, such a defy-the-heavens creature couldn't possibly exist in this world. Across from her, Lin Zikan took out a crimson elixir from his storage space and handed it to Yuan Dongji, saying, "Principal Yuan, this bloodbath pill can bring back the dead and mend bones. The principal looks quite bad, take this for him." Okay. Yuan Dongji stopped fussing over Shen Qinghan's evolution into a legendary level creature, responded with a word, and unceremoniously took the bloodbath pill Lin Zikan handed her, quickly stuffing it into Lu Juanmu's mouth. The bloodbath pill melted upon touching the tongue, transforming into countless warm streams that flowed swiftly through Lu Juanmu's body, healing every damaged cell within him. In just a moment, Lu Juanmu, who had looked like he was on his last breath, possibly close to death, now had a ruddy complexion, teeming with vitality. Was the fabled bloodbath pill's effect so incredible? Yuan Dongji witnessed the transformation in Lu Juanmu's condition, and she was shocked by the exceptional healing powers of the bloodbath pill. Once more steadying her emotions, Yuan Dongji looked at Lin Zikan, hesitating for a moment before asking, "Zi Chen, do you have any more bloodbath pills? If you have a lot, I'd like to buy a few." She was embarrassed to say this. Bloodbath pills like these were surely priceless treasures that no amount of money could buy. Asking Lin Zikan to sell her a few was somewhat taking advantage of the younger generation. Under normal circumstances, she would never do such a thing. Because she had her pride. But now, having witnessed the brutality of the Great War, she desperately needed bloodbath pills to protect herself and those around her, and she couldn't care less about pride. "I have plenty of bloodbath pills, but there's no need to buy them. This bottle has 20 pills, take it for now, Principal Yuan. If it's not enough, I still have plenty." Linziken said this as he took out a simple medicine bottle from his storage space and handed it to Yuan Dongji. His storage space was full of bloodbath pills, all given to him by Qi Qingmo. There were so many they could almost pile up into a mountain, he couldn't possibly finish them all. Yuan Dongji didn't know this, thinking Linziken said he had plenty to let her accept it comfortably. Thinking this way, Yuan Dongji, who was not one to hesitate or be courteous with others, simply accepted the medicine bottle. However, she wouldn't just take it without returning the favor. She would keep Linziken's kindness firmly in her heart, looking to repay it well in the future in some other way. Whenever Linziken needed it, she would be ready to fulfill it. Be it money, evolution resources, or other rare treasures. Linziken didn't know what Yuan Dongji was thinking, and he didn't care about her repayment. Over the past 2 years, Yuan Dongji had been very kind to him and Shen Qinghan. The bottle of bloodbath pills he just gave was his way of repaying Yuan Dongji, not a favor. Moreover, he had now evolved into a legendary level creature, while Yuan Dongji still remained at the rare level creature. The gap in their biological levels was huge, and even if he wanted Yuan Dongji to repay him, she still wouldn't have the capability. The only repayment she could offer would probably be to offer herself to him. But such a brainless stallion plot couldn't possibly occur with Linziken. In matters of love, his eyes were only for Shen Qinghan. Principal Yuan, you three should leave quickly. Linziken suddenly looked up into the sky, his tone calmly urging. The U3 he mentioned were Yuan Dongji, Lu Chuanyu, and Luo Qingxiu. Yuan Dongji didn't say a word, quickly using her spiritual power to take Lu Chuanyu and Luo Qingxiu away from the area. As soon as the three had left, Shen Qinghan, with furrowed brows, asked, "What's wrong, Linzi?" While speaking, she followed Linziken's gaze toward the sky, but she couldn't see or sense anything. There are 2 legendary level exotic beasts in the sky, hurtling our way at high speed. Linziken stated matter-of-factly. Bolstered by his biometric attributes such as the eye of the sky and danger perception, he could clearly see 2 humanoid silhouettes from 10,000 meters above, diving towards their location. At the same time, he could also sense that the true forms of these humanoid silhouettes were a 2nd-order legendary level Fire Phoenix and a 3rd-order legendary level Azure Dragon. What order of the legendary level? Shen Qinghan asked, somewhat worried. She was afraid that the 2 exotic beasts now attacking might be beyond her and Linziken's capacity to handle, rendering them defenseless. Linziken's face remained calm as water. Not high, they are 2nd order and 3rd order legendary level respectively, and they are no match for us. That's a relief. Shen Qinghan breathed a sigh of relief. However, Linziken's following remark immediately made her tense up again. He said to her, "You're now a legendary level creature, too. Try taking on both at once and see if you can overpower and slay those 2 exotic beasts." Ah! Shen Qinghan thought she might have misheard. Linziken, what, no confidence? Shen Qinghan pursed her lips, speaking sincerely with a weak voice, no confidence. Linziken, go and try, I'll be here to back you up, you'll be fine. Hearing this, Shen Qinghan felt more confident and obediently nodded, okay, then I'll give it a try. While the 2 were conversing. On the other side, Yuan Dongji, who hadn't gone far, clearly heard their conversation and was filled with mixed emotions. Just 2 years ago, she had been protecting this pair of high school sweethearts in the coastal forest. At a time when they were attacked by an elder of the divine plant cult, she had appeared in time to save them, demonstrating her immense ability as a rare level fighter that could control natural forces, leaving them awestruck. Yet, in the brief span of 2 years, this pair of sweethearts were now capable of confronting the legendary level beast kings from the origin land. And they were even set on overpowering and slaying the enemy 2 against 1. In just 2 short years, the strength of this pair had changed so drastically, it felt unreal. Buzz! 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 As the dragon and phoenix kings from the sky drew closer to the sea surface, the piercing sound of their approach grew louder in Shen Qinghan and Lin Zikin's ears. Following. Then the dragon and phoenix launched their attack. Lin Zikin didn't make a move, letting Shen Qinghan try taking on two at once. The colossal water dragon couldn't withstand the combined assault of the dragon and phoenix kings. Lin Zikin stepped in, seizing the fierce tide. He defeated the dragon and phoenix legendary level beast kings. Using his own strength, he slaughtered all the alien races present, devouring their life origin and origin force. He rapidly increased 2 biological levels in a short period of time, evolving to 4th order legendary level. Following that, the wood god won, plunging everyone into a deep, endless despair. All hands retreat to Earth for a last stand. Earth has domain power suppression. Easier to defend. P.S. Begging for monthly passes and recommendation tickets. Using his own strength, he slaughtered all the alien races present, devouring their life origin and origin force. He rapidly increased 2 biological levels in a short period of time, evolving to 4th order legendary level. Following that, the wood god won, plunging everyone into a deep, endless despair. All hands retreat to Earth for a last stand. Earth has domain power suppression. Easier to defend. Chapter 533, 306, Shen Qinghan Fallen. 2 big ants. Hearing Lin Zikin describe the 2 beast kings in such a way, Shen Qinghan couldn't help but inwardly remark on his arrogance. However, she knew that Lin Zikin had the capability to back it up. After all, Lin Zikin had faced the existence of the Night King, a mythical level expert. Although he had spent most of his time fleeing, managing to escape from a mythical level expert was not something that could be done without the strength of at least a high-level legend. And those 2 beast kings, with the biological level only of a low-level legend, indeed seemed as weak as ants in front of Lin Zikin, who, though possessing the same biological level, had the strength of a high-level legend. Phew! Shen Qinghan took a deep breath and stopped thinking about unnecessary things. She set her gaze far ahead, staring at the 2 figures diving down from the sky at high speed. A humanoid azure dragon dressed in light blue robes and a humanoid fire phoenix clad in a fiery red robe. Then, her eyes narrowed, and she rose from the ground where she stood. Her body, brimming with water, instantly underwent elementalization into a mass of transparent water, merging with the spiraling water dragon hovering at low altitude, swiftly moving to attack the descending man in blue and the woman in red robes. The man in blue and the woman in red did not expect Shen Qinghan to dare to charge at them alone and were taken aback. Both could sense that Shen Qinghan's biological level was only a low-level legend, and they couldn't understand where she got the courage to face them head-on. Was it the fearlessness of a calf facing a tiger? Or simply a desperate last stand? Unable to figure it out, the man in blue and the woman in red stopped trying to reason. When they were a few thousand meters from the water dragon, the fire phoenix, adept at fire attacks, took the initiative to attack the incoming water dragon. The fire phoenix's eyes narrowed, unleashing boundless origin force, instantly igniting the entire sky in an attempt to evaporate the rapidly approaching water dragon into a mist. However, the moment the flames ignited, they were immediately extinguished by the cold water sprayed from the body of the water dragon and disappeared. The woman in red frowned and narrowed her eyes again, reigniting her origin force to set the sky ablaze once more. No matter how much origin force she unleashed, the surrounding air remained still, unable to ignite any flames. The cold water from the water dragon contained tremendous spiritual power that halted the creation of flames. Seeing that she couldn't ignite any flames despite her best efforts, the woman in red's frown deepened. Her biological level was obviously higher than Shen Qinghan's, yet she was completely at a disadvantage in their confrontation, which frustrated her a lot. Nearby, the expression of the man in blue also looked unpleasant. He never expected that the fire phoenix would be suppressed by Shen Qinghan to the point where she couldn't even light a flame. After all, the fire phoenix was a second-order legendary creature, and her flames came from the hell ghost fire of the fire abyss, capable of burning all things in the world. Yet such terrifying hell ghost fire, even with a higher biological level, couldn't ignite even a flicker of flame. It was utterly incomprehensible. Buzz! 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 The sound of breaking air from below grew increasingly deafening. In the blink of an eye, the water dragon controlled by Shen Qinghan had already arrived in front of the man in blue and the woman in red, merely inches away. Seeing this, the man in blue immediately released all his origin force stored within his body, enhancing his water control ability to the maximum. Then, with the thought, he forcibly wrested control of the water dragon from Shen Qinghan, instantly disintegrating the 10,000-meter water dragon into a sky full of water droplets. Instantly, the sky was filled with water droplets, falling like beans from the sky. The man in blue did not let these droplets go to waste, quickly thinking of gathering the droplets into a new water dragon far longer than 10,000 meters. But before the water dragon could form, the man in blue suddenly lost control over the water molecules. Shen Qinghan, although lower in biological level than the man in blue, far surpassed him in controlling water molecules. In just a blink of an eye, she regained control of the water molecules. With a thought from her, the next second, the countless water droplets around her reformed into an even larger, more imposing water dragon that loomed over the man in blue, creating a terrifying pressure that made him despair anew. Facing this more oppressive water dragon, the man in blue's expression changed slightly, fear arising within him. He couldn't have imagined, not even in his dreams, that Shen Qinghan, 2 levels lower in biological level, would have a stronger water control ability than he, who was the Dragon King itself. What in the world was going on? Was this still the Earth he knew? There must be some mistake. The man in blue looked as if he was questioning his life, unable to accept the reality that Shen Qinghan's water controlling ability surpassed his. Boom! A deafening impact resounded. The man in blue and the woman in red, who had been diving at high speed, were instantly swallowed by the colliding water dragon and completely disappeared from the sky 10,000 meters above. But soon, as dragon and phoenix cries echoed, a blue dragon surrounded by azure smoke and a fire phoenix bathed in flames burst out from within the water dragon. It was the previous man in blue and woman in red. Shen Qinghan's last strike had forced the 2 beast kings to reveal their original forms. Her real body is in the dragon's head. The azure dragon reminded the fire phoenix next to him. As he spoke, the azure dragon was already taking the initiative to attack the head of the 10,000-meter water dragon. He could clearly sense that the energy fluctuations at the head of the water dragon were stronger, convincing him that Shen Qinghan's true body was hidden there. Chapter 534, 306. Shen Qinghan's Fall _2. Seeing the azure dragon already charging towards the head of the water dragon, the fire phoenix did not pause. It immediately unleashed its origin force and followed closely behind. Its sprinting speed far exceeded that of the azure dragon and it reached the front instantly. In the moment it overtook the azure dragon, it shouted, "Move back! Let me handle this!" It wanted to charge into the head of the water dragon, releasing the most powerful flame explosion at close range, to force out or even severely damage the elementalized Shen Qinghan inside. The azure dragon knew what it intended to do, and tactfully moved aside to let it take action. Boom! A sound of water splashing erupted. The fire phoenix, engulfed in hell ghost fire, collided at high speed with the head of the 10,000-meter water dragon. Shortly afterward, the hell ghost fire around the fire phoenix suddenly flared up, bursting out in a dazzling blaze of firelight. When this blaze intensified to the brightness of a fierce sun. Bang! A thunderous explosion resounded shockingly. At the moment the sound erupted, the gigantic head of the 10,000-meter water dragon instantly turned from azure to crimson red and then exploded into a massive fireball, like a volcanic eruption spewing out large fireballs that fell to the ground. In just a few seconds, the entire sky turned into a sea of flames. Everywhere the eye could reach was engulfed by flames, with wisps of smoke rising from everything burning to ashes. Soon, amidst this sun-obscuring smoke, a beautiful figure slowly emerged. It was the silhouette of a graceful woman. At first, the figure appeared elegantly lying in a huge shell, worshipped by many high-ranking aquatic creatures. But in less than 2 seconds, the entire atmosphere of the scene did a complete turnaround. The woman who had been lying gracefully in the shell suddenly turned into a lifeless corpse, lying flat. The expressions on the faces of the high-ranking aquatic creatures, who had been kneeling in worship before her, changed from reverence to sorrow. The atmosphere shifted from veneration to mourning. The scenes above were an illusion, triggered by the fall of a legendary level creature. It signified that just then, a legendary level expert had fallen. Buzz! A fiery red silhouette burst out of the sea of flames. It was the fire phoenix that had just released the flame explosion. Now, due to releasing too much energy, its inner energy was disordered and its flames were significantly dimmer. However, its face was filled with a smile, feeling immensely pleased. The effect of the close-range flame explosion was much better than anticipated. It had thought that forcing the elementalized Shen Qinghan to reveal herself would be a success. Severely injuring Shen Qinghan would have been a great success. But now, the result was that Shen Qinghan had been blasted into nothingness. Undetectable within 100 miles. Meanwhile, on the sea surface below, countless Earthlings who were watching the battle saw the 10,000-meter water dragon in the sky being blown into nothingness by a massive blaze, followed by the illusion signaling the fall of a legendary creature, and they were instantly filled with despair. The appearance of the 10,000-meter water dragon had initially brought them great hope as it slaughtered its way across the battlefield. Now, seeing it suddenly obliterated by the blaze plunged them into despair again. Different from these people was Lin Zikan, who cared most about Shen Qinghan. He just stood silently, staring into the sky with an unchanging expression. Elsewhere, Yuan Dongji, while fleeing with Lu Chuanwu and Luo Qingxiu, kept an eye on the situation in the sky. Seeing the 10,000-meter water dragon, formed by Shen Qinghan, instantly devoured by the blaze and then followed by the illusion, her heart sank completely. Luo Qingxiu, seeing her distressed expression, spoke immediately. "Master, don't worry. She's fine." "Fine?" Yuan Dongji frowned slightly, unable to understand how Shen Qinghan could be fine with even the illusion of fall appearing. Luo Qingxiu explained. "I thought she had some ability, just to find she's nothing more than an ant that can be snuffed out with a flick." The fire phoenix watched the illusion signaling the fall of the legendary creatures. The azure-haired Shen Qinghan appeared behind. "Be careful!" the azure dragon shouted. But it was too late. A huge palm appeared and firmly grasped the fire phoenix. Then, massive streams of water flowed into the fire phoenix through its pores, exploding and blowing it up into a mist of blood. Shen Qinghan was so cunning, pretending to have fallen. The azure dragon tried to escape. The next second, it was caught up by Lin Zikan, who blew it up with a punch. Slaying the dragon and phoenix, legendary beast kings. Behind, Lin Zikan cleared the area, killing all the alien races present, absorbing life origin and origin force. His biological level evolved to legendary 4th order in a short period of time. On the ground, thinking about this outcome, Yuan Dongji was stunned. So strong! Li Moyu, Ma Ziwei, Luo Yongjian, Li Chuxin, and other Shan University students were all astounded, too. Above Central Region, the Wood God said, "The Water God is as cunning as before." P.S. Bowing down, seeking monthly pass recommendations. Central Region. Only Qi King Mo escaped. All other gods revived. The Water God originated from Earth and was considered an alien god to the origin land. Writing about a mythical level battlefield. The Wood God was off to kill the Water God, not wishing for the Water God to fully revive. Behind, the Wood God arrived. The sea turned into a forest. All back to Earth for a last stand. Earth featured domain power suppression. Easier to defend. Entering Central Region, entering Relics, gaining power, wildly evolving. Central Region, in fact, is the heart of the abyss. All other realms' abysses are but extensions of the Central Region's abyss. Then, the legendary level. Behind that, the situation flipped, and the forces of the Sun-Moon Sacred Land crushed the enemy. Eventually, in this great battle, Sun-Moon Sacred Land triumphed. The Earthlings completely withdrew from the site. Because Shen Qinghan was still stuck in the palace of Water God. She couldn't leave. Lin Zikan alone guarded the lone city, protecting Shen Qinghan. City number 1. Ultimately, with Shen Qinghan's attributes, Lin Zikan took Shen Qinghan and escaped into the abyss. It was just as in his dreams. Later, the male lead used abyss monsters to kill legendary or mythical level experts. The male lead, backed by the abyss, became the abyss master. Using abyss monsters, killing mythical level creatures, shaking heaven and earth, driving everyone into shock. The Great Battle on Earth. Nuclear bombs. Mechanically modified humans appeared. Entering Central Region, entering Relics, gaining power, madly evolving. Central Region, in essence, is the heart of the abyss. The abysses in other realms are but sprouts from the Central Region's abyss. Then the legendary level. Afterward, the situation flipped abruptly, and the forces of the Sun-Moon Sacred Land devastated the opponents. Finally, amid this great conflict, the Sun-Moon Sacred Land emerged victorious. The Earthlings completely evacuated the origin site. Because Shen Qinghan was still trapped in the palace of Water God, she couldn't leave. Lin Zikan alone guarded the lone city, protecting Shen Qinghan. City number 1. In the end, with Shen Qinghan's attributes, Lin Zikan took Shen Qinghan and escaped into the abyss. It was exactly like in his dreams. Later, using abyss monsters, he killed legendary and mythical level experts. The male lead, backed by the abyss, became the master of the abyss. Using abyss monsters, he killed mythical level creatures. The heavens and earth changed colors, all kinds of illusions appeared, and everyone was astounded. Attacking Earth. Describing mechanically modified humans, describing nuclear bombs. Writing about the disadvantages of genetic integrators. The integrated genes are their limit, they can never surpass alien races. Entering Central Region, entering Relics, gaining power, madly evolving. Central Region, in fact, is the center of the abyss. The abysses in other domains are expansions from the Central Region's abyss. Then, the legendary level. Afterward, the situation flipped dramatically, the Sun-Moon Sacred Land forces overwhelmed the enemy. Ultimately, in this great war, the Sun-Moon Sacred Land side achieved a significant victory. Earthlings completely evacuated the origin site. Because Shen Qinghan was still stuck in the palace of Water God, she couldn't leave. Lin Zikan stood alone, guarding the lone city to protect Shen Qinghan. City number 1. Lastly, with Shen Qinghan's attributes, Lin Zikan took Shen Qinghan and fled into the abyss. It was just like in his dreams. Later, using abyss monsters, he killed legendary and mythical level experts. The male lead, backed by the abyss, became the abyss master. Using abyss monsters, he killed mythical level creatures, causing the heavens and earth to change colors, all kinds of phenomena occurred, and everyone was shocked. Attacking Earth. Describing mechanically modified humans, describing nuclear bombs. Discussing the disadvantages of genetic integrators. Integrated genes are their limits, they can never overcome alien races. Chapter 535, 307, The Treacherous Water God. I thought she had some skills, but it turns out she's just an ant easily squished between my fingers. Said the fire phoenix, suspended still high in the sky above the raging inferno. Looking down at the spectacular demise of high-ranking aquatic creatures with a sneer of disdain. In the first round of combat, its hell ghost fire, ignited mid-air, was easily extinguished by the mist from the 10,000-meter water dragon controlled by Shen King Han. It couldn't be rekindled. Being suppressed despite its higher biological level was a blow to its pride. Now that it had killed Shen King Han, not saying something to belittle her and elevate itself made it feel as uncomfortable as being covered in crawling ants. In contrast, the Azure Dragon not far away frowned slightly, feeling more and more that something was amiss with the spectacle before it. Sensing trouble, it immediately conveyed its doubts to the Fire Phoenix. Feng Yuan, something seems off about the spectacle before us, it's unusually large. Her biological level was only legendary tier 1. The phenomenon caused by her fall shouldn't be this magnificent. There must be some problem here. What problem could there be? The Fire Phoenix continued dismissively, she was abnormal to begin with, no earthling could possibly have her strength. I guess she must have had some ancient inheritance and an extraordinary physique, so the phenomenon caused by her fall is equally extraordinary. But no matter how extraordinary, she has now fallen, and everything has turned to nothing. With that, the Fire Phoenix turned its gaze to Lin Zikan below and said to the Azure Dragon, "There's one more down there, having just unleashed a flame explosion, my body is a bit weakened. You go and deal with him." The Azure Dragon coolly replied, "Leave it to me." As soon as the words fell, it burst forth with origin force, intending to dive down towards Lin Zikan below. But just as it moved to dive, it sharply perceived changes in the surrounding environment and immediately ceased its descent. "What's wrong?" Seeing the Azure Dragon halt inexplicably, the Fire Phoenix couldn't help but voice its confusion. The Azure Dragon's eyebrows knit together. "Have you noticed the humidity around us is noticeably increasing?" Upon hearing this, the Fire Phoenix, retrospectively aware, did notice the air's humidity had significantly increased. After a moment of thought, it said, "That earthling girl who just died in my flame explosion was quite adept at controlling the water element, her physique must be closely bound to water. The increase in humidity is probably due to her fall. Her dispersing aura after death permeates the entire sky, changing some of the sky's attributes." This explanation was logical and convincing. The Azure Dragon, feeling the reasoning was solid, no longer dwelled on the issue and quickly erupted in origin force again, hastening to deal with Lin Zikan below. Just then, out of the corner of its eye, it suddenly noticed a water orb behind the Fire Phoenix, rapidly growing larger. In the blink of an eye, the plum-sized water orb swelled to the size of the Fire Phoenix's massive body. Realizing what was happening, the Azure Dragon shouted a warning to the Fire Phoenix, "Feng Yuan, watch out behind you." The moment the words fell, the Azure Dragon's origin force exploded with speed too fast for the mind to perceive, rushing to the giant water orb that had appeared out of nowhere behind the Fire Phoenix. The Fire Phoenix's expression changed drastically, and it too unleashed its origin force, eager to move away from its current location. However, no sooner had its origin force erupted than before it could move its massive body. In the next second, the giant water orb behind it transformed into a massive shell, opening a gaping maw. Then, under the horrified gaze of the Azure Dragon, the mysterious giant shell swallowed the Fire Phoenix whole. Swallowed whole. The speed of the swallow was so fast that neither the Azure Dragon nor the Fire Phoenix could react. Then, as if the water element in the shell had a life of its own, it surged frantically into the Fire Phoenix's body. Nostrils, mouth, genitals, pores. Any orifice leading into the Fire Phoenix's body was flooded by the water element from the shell. In less than half a second, the Fire Phoenix's body was bloated into a sphere. It swelled ever larger, obscuring the sun and sky. The Fire Phoenix wanted to save itself but realized in horror that it had lost control of its body. The origin force inside it was completely suppressed by the inbound water element. All it could do was watch helplessly as its body became increasingly swollen, inflating like a balloon, not knowing when it would burst. Buzz! The Azure Dragon shot forth to the Fire Phoenix's front, releasing a powerful burst of origin force, pulling the Fire Phoenix out of the giant shell made of condensed water. The moment the fire phoenix escaped the giant shell, the surrounding water element in the entire sky suddenly became extremely lively, madly converging from all directions towards the now swollen, spherical fire phoenix. The azure dragon erupted with origin force again, preventing the water element in the air from flowing into the fire phoenix. But it wasn't long before the azure dragon itself started struggling. At the moment it reached out to save the fire phoenix, the water element in the air also began surging frantically into its body. Boom! Suddenly, a deafening explosion sounded. The fire phoenix's inflated body burst like a nuclear bomb, flesh scattered, a vast cloud of blood spreading, staining the sky red. Not long after. Boom! Another explosion echoed. Chapter 536, 307, The Treacherous Water God _2. The azure dragon that had just been aiding the fire phoenix suddenly swelled into a ball and exploded, transforming into a vast blood mist that dyed the skies red. Soon, the blood mist in the sky coalesced into two blood spheres. One contained the will of the fire phoenix. The other contained the will of the azure dragon. The moment the blood spheres formed, the water elements in the air also swiftly gathered, instantly condensing into the slender and soft figure of a young girl. It was Shen Qinghan, who had vanished amidst the flame explosion earlier. At this moment, Shen Qinghan was completely naked, her body modestly covered by the intertwining water elements, her azure blue hair undulating with the wind, smooth as water, breathtakingly beautiful. I actually did it. To fight 2-on-1. And to kill stronger opponents in a 2-on-1 battle while crossing ranks. Shen Qinghan looked at the two blood spheres hovering before her, her spirited face showing some paleness. She'd never imagined that she, who had always been dragging her feet, could actually kill beings far stronger than herself, just like Lin Zikan had been doing. She didn't think too much about it. Very quickly. With a thought, Shen Qinghan drew the two blood spheres hanging in the air towards herself. The wills of the azure dragon and fire phoenix within the two spheres were quite restless, pulsating continuously, trying to regenerate their flesh and resurrect. Seeing this, Shen Qinghan immediately unleashed her spiritual power to invade the two blood spheres, ruthlessly eradicating the remnants of the azure dragon and fire phoenix within. In just a few seconds, the remains of the wills of the two beast kings within the blood spheres were completely wiped out. Following that, the calm sky began to display an extraordinary sight of dragons and phoenixes dancing. The projections of an azure dragon and a fire phoenix affectionately circled slowly in the high sky, then plummeted together, marking their final fall. Buzz! A sharp sound of breaking through the air rang out. Shen Qinghan, along with the two vibrant blood spheres and her deep blue hair fluttering, plunged towards Lin Zikan at high speed. In the blink of an eye, she halted before Lin Zikan, and then with a sweet and endearing smile, she presented the two floating blood spheres to him. She knew that Lin Zikan could devour the life origins of alien races to grow stronger and that these two blood spheres were of great value to him. Lin Zikan didn't rush to devour the two blood spheres, instead, he took out a set of clean clothes from his storage space with a thought and handed them to Shen Qinghan, saying, "Put these on." "Okay." Shen Qinghan agreed and began to put on the clothes handed to her. Seeing that she was dressed, Lin Zikan then started to devour the two blood spheres before him. "You have devoured a massive amount of Hell Phoenix life origin, gaining the biometric attribute Hellfire. Hellfire, you can unleash flames that incinerate everything. You have devoured a massive amount of Deep Sea Azure Dragon life origin, gaining the biometric attribute Overturning Seas. Overturning seas, without consuming spiritual power, you can naturally control water elements. You have devoured a tremendous amount of origin force from the Hell Phoenix and Deep Sea Azure Dragon, converting it into Chi blood and spirit, vastly enhancing your Chi blood strength and spiritual strength. Your biological level has successfully evolved from Legendary 2nd Order to Legendary 3rd Order Great Perfection. Legendary 3rd Order Great Perfection. Only a step away from the legends of lore." Lin Zikan gazed at the text prompts flashing in the void, a hint of excitement stirring in his heart. At this time, Shen Qinghan emerged from the mist, fully clothed, and curiously asked, "Zi Chen, how much strength have you gained by devouring those 2 blood spheres?" Lin Zikan replied, "I've evolved to legendary 3rd order great perfection." Shen Qinghan's face showed surprise upon hearing this. She hadn't expected those 2 blood spheres to bring such a huge boost to Lin Zikan. Reading what she was surprised about, Lin Zikan chuckled and said, "Well, those were 2 legendary level Beast King's life origins. A substantial power increase is quite normal." After saying that, he didn't forget to praise Shen Qinghan with a smile, "Your strength far exceeded my expectations. I thought it would take you at least a few hours of fierce battle to take down those 2 Beast Kings, but you managed it so easily." Shen Qinghan showed a bit of pride, "That's right, I may not be as good as you, but I'm also quite formidable, you know." Lin Zikan laughed softly. "You weren't like this before, you used to be timid and lacked confidence." "That's not true, don't slander me." Shen Qinghan pouted slightly in denial. Lin Zikan smiled and then said, "Let's just say I slandered you then. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's quickly clean up the battlefield, and eliminate all the alien races left." "Okay." Shen Qinghan replied at once. In a flash, the 2 of them turned into streaks of light and moved at high speed across the battlefield, leaving only corpses in their wake as numerous alien races perished on the spot. Everyone else on the battlefield was deeply shocked by this scene before their eyes. Especially Li Moyu, Ma Ziwei, Luo Yongjian, Li Chuxin, and other classmates from Shan University, who were more familiar with Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan, all had looks of disbelief on their faces. The change was too drastic. So drastic it felt unreal. Like something out of a dream. 2 years ago, when university had just started, everyone was a freshman. There were differences in strength, but not by much. Unlike now, the gaps in biological levels were 2 entire major ranks apart. One side was high-level creatures, while the other had evolved into legendary-level creatures. The disparity was so vast it was almost as if they were not even the same species anymore. Simultaneously, above the central region, a glance across would reveal skyline dominated by sky-reaching giant trees. Among them, the tallest tree, which was the wood god nearing full revival, quietly gazed towards the southern domain and murmured, "The water god is as treacherous as ever. P.S. Holding out my bowl, seeking monthly passes and recommendations." Central region. Only Qi King Mo escaped. All other gods revived. The water god originated from Earth, an alien god by the origin land's standard. Right about the mythical level battlefield. The wood god intends to slay the water god, unwilling to allow her full resurrection. In the back, the wood god arrived. The sea turned into a forest. Everyone fell back to defend Earth. Earth's domain power suppresses. Easier to defend. P.S. Holding out my bowl, seeking monthly passes and recommendations. Enter the central region, delve into the relics, gain power, evolve feverishly. The central region, in fact, is the heart of the abyss. The abysses in other domains are all extensions of the central region's abyss. Then, the legendary level. Then, the situation flips instantly, the Sun-Moon Sacred Lands side is beaten to disarray. In the end, this grand battle, the Sun-Moon Sacred Lands side emerges victorious. Earthlings fully retreat from the origin land. Because Shen Qinghan is still trapped in the palace of Water God, unable to leave. Lin Zikan stands alone, a lone guardian of the city, protecting Shen Qinghan. City number 1. Lastly, Shen Qinghan's attributes, Lin Zikan takes her and flees into the abyss. Discovers it's exactly like in his dream. Later, the male lead uses abyss monsters to kill legendary level experts or mythical level experts. The male lead, backed by the abyss, becomes the abyss master. Using abyss monsters to slay mythical level creatures, the heavens and earth change color, extraordinary events unfold, shocking everyone. The Great War on Earth. Nuclear bombs. Mechanically modified humans appear. Enter the central region, delve into the relics, gain power, evolve feverishly. The central region, in fact, is the heart of the abyss. The abysses in other domains are all extensions of the central region's abyss. Then, the legendary level. Then, the situation flips instantly, the Sun-Moon Sacred Lands side is beaten to disarray. In the end, this grand battle, the Sun-Moon Sacred Lands side emerges victorious. Earthlings fully retreat from the origin land. Because Shen Qinghan is still trapped in the palace of Water God, unable to leave. Lin Zikan stands alone, a lone guardian of the city, protecting Shen Qinghan. City number 1. Lastly, Shen Qinghan's attributes. Lin Zikan takes her and flees into the abyss. Discovers it's exactly like in his dream. Later, the male lead uses abyss monsters to kill legendary level experts or mythical level experts. The male lead, backed by the abyss, becomes the abyss master. Using abyss monsters to kill mythical level creatures, the heavens and earth change color, extraordinary events unfold, shocking everyone. Attack Earth. Describe mechanically modified humans, describe nuclear bombs. Write about the disadvantages of genetic integrators. The genes they fuse with set their limit, they can never beat alien races. Chapter 537, 308, 5 Elements Unification. Central Region. The Wood God perceived the southern domain with a composed expression, all his attention focused on Shen Qinghan. Around him, Qi Qingmo and other mythical level experts were still struggling, battling with the massive surge of thorn vines until the very end. The sky was filled with thorn vines that frantically surged toward Qi Qingmo and the other mythical level experts. Under the full firepower of Qi Qingmo and the other mythical level experts, most of the thorn vines vaporized instantly, leaving no trace. However, because the Wood God was present, the thorn vines could endlessly regenerate, not fearing depletion at all. The Water God is about to revive. You participated in that incident back then, he must settle scores with you once he revives. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, you now have a chance to join my ranks. The Wood God, from his high vantage point, looked down upon the Sea God, his gaze distant, his voice ancient and weathered. The Sea God's expression changed slightly upon hearing this. He had become the Sea God because he had, alongside other high-ranking aquatic beings, backstabbed the Water God long ago and stolen some of his divine power. Once the Water God revived, he would inevitably be held accountable. At the very least, his divine power would be reclaimed, or, at worst, he would be obliterated on the spot. Stay alert. Don't be deceived by the Wood God. His words are not to be believed. Sumai Xiao, noticing the Sea God's perturbed expression, immediately spoke out to remind him, fearing he might defect at this critical moment. They were already at a disadvantage. If the Sea God truly defected, the situation would become completely one-sided. Upon hearing Sumai Xiao's words, the Sea God fell into contemplation. Then, he looked around to assess the current battle situation. After that, he instantly flashed through space and appeared behind Sumai Xiao. Sumai Xiao had yet to process what was happening when... Thud! Her full chest was suddenly pierced by a hand imbued with origin force, her life force visibly draining away. The Sea God had struck her. His attack was merciless, aimed to kill in one blow. Why. Sumai Xiao's eyes widened in disbelief. Her face filled with astonishment. The Sea God was infatuated with her to the point of obsession, and he had risked coming to this mythical level battle to save her. But now, he was trying to kill her, something she could not understand. Facing her bewilderment, the Sea God didn't respond but instead forcefully erupted the origin force in his hand, ruthlessly destroying her life's framework without any regard for past feelings. Simultaneously, a ray of Qi blood, powerful and brilliant, shot forth abruptly, carrying endless blood chi power, and slammed harshly onto the sea god. The sea god was too slow to dodge and took the full brunt of the incoming blood chi power, sending him flying backwards. During his flight, he couldn't help but spit blood, his internal organs shifted, and he was severely injured. Elsewhere, after Qi Qingmo rescued Su Maiziao, he immediately stuffed an elixir into her mouth to heal her injuries. Elder Li and Sima Xian hurried over to check Su Maiziao's condition, their faces full of concern. Both of them were infatuated with Su Maiziao, hopelessly addicted to her skills in bed, deeply caring about her life and death. Under the enhancement of the elixir, quickly, the gravely injured, near-death Su Maiziao was visibly self-healing, her vitality rapidly restoring, successfully pulling through the life-threatening situation. Conversely, the sea god, who had just directly taken a full blow from Qi Qingmo, was increasingly worsening in his wounds, every cell in his body being mercilessly destroyed by the blood chi power, unable to self-heal. Xian Yuanwanyu noticed this. As a woman, she didn't just focus on Su Maiziao like Elder Li and Sima Xian. Her attention was entirely on the sea god, noticing how gravely injured he was, a trace of shock appearing on her face. The sea god's power was one of the foremost among the mythical level experts in the origin land. Yet, such a prominent expert had almost perished on the spot just from taking one hit from Qi Qingmo. Such a scene profoundly shocked Xian Yuanwanyu, also a mythical level expert. Is this still the love immortal master I know? When did this madwoman become so powerful? How did she do it? Xian Yuanwanyu looked at Qi Qingmo standing nearby, her deep eyes filled with puzzlement. Meanwhile, the severely injured sea god continuously spit blood, his vitality rapidly draining, completely losing his ability to self-heal. Without external intervention, it wouldn't take long for him to completely perish. Would God save me? The sea god clung to his last breath, his eyes filled with a desire to survive as he pleaded. The wood god didn't rush to infuse him with life force but rather emotionlessly said, "Please address me as Lord Wood God. Wood God Lord, please save me." The sea god could hardly hold on anymore, Qi Qingmo's blood chi power incessantly destroying his life framework, reducing his vitality nearly to zero, at any moment he could perish. Upon hearing the desired submissive address, the wood god satisfiedly shot out a green thorn vine. Thud! A sound of flesh and bone breaking echoed. The green thorn vine instantly pierced through the sea god's heaven's gate, rapidly infusing a massive amount of life force. Under the nourishment of the wood god's life force, the sea god, who had been on the brink of death a moment ago, immediately healed from his injuries, returning to his peak condition in the next moment. However, the sea god could not feel happy. He was painfully aware that having taken in a substantial amount of life force from the wood god, he would henceforth be the wood god's dog in life and his soul's keeper in death, forever unable to betray. Chapter 538, 308, 5 Elements Unification _2. Otherwise, vitality would be lost in an instant, and one would perish on the spot. But there was no other way. In order to survive, he had to choose to follow the wood god and receive the wood god's protection. Otherwise, given the water god's unforgiving and almost extreme style of conduct, even if he could survive today's great battle against the wood god, the day the water god fully recovered, he would also die at the hands of the water god. The key point was that dying at the hands of the water god would still be a relatively good outcome. The fear was that the water god wouldn't grant a swift death and would instead torture traitors. The sea god had witnessed several instances of the water god torturing enemies when he was under the water god's command. It was a torture both physical and spiritual. One that could make life worse than death. Seeing it from a distance was already unbearable for the sea god, who didn't have the courage to experience it firsthand. He would rather perish immediately than fall into the water god's hands and suffer such torture. Sea god, what are you doing? Across from him, Su Maiziao, who had also luckily escaped death, looked at the sea god in fury mixed with confusion, questioning him. She couldn't understand why the sea god, who had risked his life to rescue her, would suddenly betray them. The betrayal was without reason and without logic. Before the sea god could reply, the wood god, who had successfully absorbed the sea god, spoke up, because his fear of the water god outweighs his obsession with you. Hearing this explanation, Qi Qingmo and the other four were puzzled. The sea god clearly wasn't afraid of even the wood god, so why would he fear the water god, who was of the same order as the wood god? Was it a case of one creature subduing another? The sea god and the water god were both aquatic beings, and then the sea god was restrained by the water god? Qi Qingmo and the others' thoughts were racing. Boom! Suddenly, an earth-shattering sound resonated. Rooted at the center of the battlefield, the wood god, in the form of a sky-reaching giant tree, rose slowly into the air under the gazes of Qi Qingmo and other powerhouses, towering into the skies and eclipsing the sun. I am going to the southern domain to resolve the water god. I leave this place to you, just prevent them from leaving. With no emotion, these words were dropped, and the wood god shot out several thorny vines infused with origin force, tearing a huge rift in the sky and pulling its massive body swiftly through it. In that instant he left. Plants on the battlefield began growing wildly. Thick branches and dense leaves intertwined in every direction. In just a moment, they formed a massive, impenetrable tree cage, trapping the remaining 9 mythical level experts within, making it impossible for them to escape in a short time. The remaining 9 mythical level experts were divided into 2 groups. Qi Qingmo, Sima Xiao, Sima Xian, Xian Yuan Wanyu, and Elder Li formed one group. The Flower God, Elder Tree, Sea God, and Lord of Silence were on the other side. Among them, Qi Qingmo's group held an overwhelming advantage in strength. But the Flower God's group held the home ground advantage. This tree cage could continuously provide them with vitality from the wood god. As long as the tree cage stood, they could be undying. Their only task now was to engage Qi Qingmo's group, preventing them from breaking the tree cage and heading to the southern domain to interfere with the wood god dealing with the water god. Southern Domain. City number 36. After nearly 10 minutes of clearing the field, Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan slaughtered all the alien races on the battlefield without leaving a single one. Among them, Lin Zikan devoured a large amount of the alien race's life origin and origin force, successfully evolving to the legendary Fourth Order, and his strength increased substantially. Lin Ziai, which city are we clearing next? After dealing with the last alien race on the battlefield, Shen Qinghan turned to ask Lin Zikan. Lin Zikan calmly said, "Go to city number 35. The biological channel there also leads to Shanghai City. After we clean up all the cities connected to Shanghai City, we will move on to clear the cities linked to Nanjiang Province." Shen Qinghan urged, "Then let's set off now." "Okay." Lin Zikan agreed, grabbed Shen Qinghan's slender waist, and flew toward city number 35 at top speed. Those who survived on the battlefield watched the childhood sweethearts leave. Until now, they all still wore a daze on their faces, finding it very surreal. At their most desperate moment, they had all fantasized about Earth's powerful beings coming to rescue them, saving them from this battlefield strewn with corpses. What they hadn't expected was for the Earth's powerful beings who came to their rescue to be this pair of 20-year-olds who were childhood sweethearts. On the other side, en route to city number 35. In just a few seconds, Lin Zikan had already covered nearly a third of the distance with Shen Qinghan. Just as Lin Zikan was about to speed up, slay! A sharp tearing sound suddenly came from above him. At the moment the sound was heard, a huge rift appeared in the air, emanating abundant vitality that made fresh green sprouts appear across the entire sky. Then, a sky-reaching giant tree that blotted out the sun drifted out from the rift, enveloping Lin Zikan and Shen Qinghan below in shadow so that they couldn't see their hands in front of them. Sun Moon Sacred Land. Upon seeing the sky-reaching giant tree, the words flashed through Lin Zikan's mind instantly. Without hesitating for even a second, he burst forth his chi blood and spirit at the fastest speed to flee with Shen Qinghan. The direction he fled was directly towards city number 36, the closest. He couldn't stay in the origin land any longer. Lin Zikin had to take Shen Qinghan back to Earth. Earth had domain power that could suppress alien races. And most importantly, there were more people on Earth. With domain power suppression and the boost from being a social animal, Lin Zikin believed that with his own strength, he could hold his own against the alien race's mythical level experts, or even overpower them. The phrase "even a mighty dragon can't crush a local snake" suited him perfectly, as the holder of the home ground advantage on Earth. Buzz buzz buzz. Just as Lin Zikin turned with Shen Qinghan to fly toward city number 36 behind them, several urgent whizzing sounds suddenly arose. Before Lin Zikin had the chance to dodge. The next second, he and Shen Qinghan were entangled by several green thorny vines. Then, the two of them were forcibly pulled in front of the sky-reaching giant tree with the vines binding them so they couldn't move. Slay! A pair of gigantic eyes opened on the trunk of the sky-reaching giant tree, emitting an ancient and world-weary aura, staring intently at the two people before it. Under the gaze of these gigantic eyes, Lin Zikin uncontrollably felt terror. The tree before him exuded a sense of oppression thousands, if not millions, times stronger than the Night King. This was not a typical mythical level creature. It was a creature above the mythical level. The wood god. The sky-reaching giant tree before his eyes was the primordial wood god of Sun Moon Sacred Land. It was one of the oldest 5 elements gods in the origin land. An existence of the same order as the water god. Realizing this, Lin Zikin's heart sank to the abyss. At the palace of Water God, he had personally witnessed the strength of the Water God. The Water God had managed to kill the mythical level Night King with ease even before fully recovering. And the Wood God, possessing the same order of strength as the Water God, would definitely be on the same level. Lin Zikin knew very well that in the face of such a powerful existence, he had no chance of escape. Now, he could only hope that the being wasn't coveting his and Shen Qinghan's bodies to carry out soul possession. Water God, we meet again in good health. The Wood God, with ancient and world-weary eyes, looked profoundly at Shen Qinghan before him and spoke. Before Shen Qinghan had the chance to respond, it spoke again. Back then, you were the first to attempt the 5 elements unification, scheming against the Metal God. The following part. The Wood God arrived. The sea turned into a forest. Everyone, return to Earth and make a stand. Earth has domain power suppression. Easier to defend. Earth is the biggest abyss. The Water God was a god from the origin land who, in its desire to absorb the other 4 gods for 5 elements unification, failed, fled to Earth, died, and its legacy became Shen Qinghan's inheritance. P.S. Requesting for your monthly pass and recommendation tickets. The following part. The Wood God arrived. The sea turned into a forest. Everyone, return to Earth and make a stand. Earth has domain power suppression. Easier to defend. Earth is the biggest abyss. The Water God was a god from the origin land who, in its desire to absorb the other 4 gods for 5 elements unification, failed, fled to Earth, died, and its legacy became Shen Qinghan's inheritance. Chapter 539, 309, Water God Revival. Enter the Abyss. The Wood God floated in the high sky, surrounded by a halo of vibrant green, looking down at Shen Qinghan and spoke these words. However, Shen Qinghan couldn't understand at all. At this moment, all she knew was that the Wood God radiated an immense pressure, making it hard for her to breathe. Her body trembled uncontrollably. Her palms were sweating incessantly. She was engulfed in panic. Lin Zikin noticed that Shen Qinghan was scared and immediately transmitted Qi blood voice to her, trying to soothe her uneasy emotions as much as possible. Don't be afraid. We won't get into trouble. That he didn't kill us right off the bat and is talking to you instead shows that we still have value to him. While transmitting these thoughts through Qi blood voice, Lin Zikin was deep in thought, multitasking. 5 elements unification? Peace? Had the gold god, fire god, and earth god all been schemed against? What sort of story was hidden in all this? And, why did certain forces from the origin land go to great lengths to invade Earth? Was there something on Earth that they wanted? But what could that be? The evolution resources on Earth were extremely scarce. What could attract the powerhouses from the origin land? He pondered these things when the wood god shifted its gaze from Shen Qinghan and turned to him, speaking in an ancient and weathered voice, "You're right, the two of you indeed still hold value to me." Hearing this, Lin Zikin's expression changed slightly. The wood god could hear my chi blood voice to Han Han. The wood god continued, "One is the vessel for the resurgence of the water god, the other is the son of the abyss. Is your meeting by chance, or did you orchestrate it intentionally?" Intentionally. Upon hearing these four words, Lin Zikin couldn't help but glance at Shen Qinghan beside him. He had always been puzzled in his heart. He and Shen Qinghan were childhood sweethearts, and both were extremely special beings, so special that no third could be found on the entire earth. What's more important was that Shen Qinghan was born only a day after him, with birth dates so close it felt as if she were deliberately following him into this world. He did not dwell on this confusion. Soon, Lin Zikin looked at the wood god and voiced a doubt that had lingered long in his heart, "What is the son of the abyss?" The wood god ignored him and redirected its gaze back to Shen Qinghan, asking, "Where did you hide the gold origin, the fire origin, and the earth origin? Are they hidden on earth? Hand over these three origins, and in consideration of our many years of friendship, I will leave you with a sliver of water origin so you can continue to exist in this world." After asking these questions, the wood god quietly stared into Shen Qinghan's eyes, patiently waiting for her to give the answer it wanted to hear. Shen Qinghan trembled her thin lips and said, I don't know, I am not the water god, I have no memory of the water god, I don't know where those three origins you want are hidden." "Hat!" The wood god chuckled, its calm gaze suddenly turned cold. "Do you really think I would believe you? In this world, who doesn't know that you, the water god, are the most cunning and deceitful? I'm giving you one last chance. If you fail to give me the answer I want, I won't hesitate to destroy this vessel of your resurgence and cut off your hope of revival for good." I really don't know." Shen Qinghan was so frightened that her pretty face turned deathly pale, her delicate body quivering uncontrollably, and for a moment she felt at a loss. Seeing that Shen Qinghan still wasn't cooperating, the wood god didn't waste any more time talking to her and said indifferently, "If you choose not to cooperate, then I have no choice but to grant your wish. You might as well give up on any hope of revival." At the moment those words fell, the wood god suddenly tightened the thorny vines binding Shen Qinghan, intending to burst her into a mist of blood. Seeing this, Lin Zikin, in desperation, exploded with chi blood and spirit, attempting to break the vines binding and rescue Shen Qinghan beside him. However, the disparity in strength was too great. No matter how much Lin Zikin erupted, the thorny vines binding him did not budge. "Lin Zi, save me!" Shen Qinghan's face was contorted in pain, her voice full of agony. She could clearly feel all her organs being squeezed together under the tightening of the thorny vines, about to be compressed into a solid ball of flesh. Seeing the pain on Shen Qinghan's face, Lin Zikin felt an unprecedented despair and immediately shouted at the wood god. "Stop! She's not the water god. I know where the real water god is. The water god is in her sea of consciousness. There's a palace of the water god in her sea of consciousness, the water god must be in the palace." His voice was thunderous, with a piercing volume. The sound resonated so that the eardrums of all living beings within tens of thousands of miles buzzed, nearly causing deafness. Lin Zikin wasn't sure whether the water god was indeed in the palace of the water god, but in order to save Shen Qinghan, he could only declare it with certainty. However, after hearing this, the wood god's expression remained unchanged, saying mercilessly, "The water god is not in the palace of the water god deep within her sea of consciousness. The water god is on her soul. With those words, the wood god suddenly tightened the thorny vines around Shen King Han, no longer insisting on making the water god reveal itself willingly. Boom! A muffled sound of flesh being compressed exploded. In front of Lin Zikin's eyes, Shen King Han's delicate body burst into a mist of blood and spread instantly into the surrounding air, staining the azure sky red. Han had died. Lin Zikin watched the blood mist before him with a vacant gaze, unwilling to believe this fact. Chapter 540, 309, Water God Revival. Enter the Abyss, _2. He couldn't accept that Shen King Han, who had accompanied him for 20 years, had just died before his eyes. Just when he was utterly desperate. The blood mist before his eyes suddenly coalesced at a speed undetectable by the mind, instantly forming the figure of a slender girl. Deep blue long hair, sparkling peach blossom eyes, a delicate body like water. It's Han Han. Han Han's flesh and blood had been reborn, she was alive. She hadn't died. Lin Zikin's body shook with excitement. He had thought Shen King Han's death on the thorny vines of the wood god meant there was no chance of her surviving. He didn't expect that Shen King Han would be resurrected from blood and flesh before his eyes, profoundly shaking him. Wait. No. She wasn't Han Han. After the excitement, Lin Zikin calmed down and noticed something was amiss. The Shen King Han before him was radiating a biological pressure so intense, it was terrifying, far surpassing the Night King, and as mighty as that emanating from the wood god. Most importantly, there was not a hint of weakness in her eyes that was there in the past. There was only a very oppressive sharpness. Even more fierce than the gaze of the ferocious great eagle. Lin Zikin couldn't help but tremble with fright after making eye contact with her. Was this the water god? Lin Zikin looked at the Shen King Han with a completely different demeanor before him. This thought flashing through his mind. Quickly, his thought was confirmed by the wood god. Accompanied by a violent surge of energy fluctuations. The wood god, in the form of a sky-reaching giant tree, instantly condensed into an old man in a green robe. Finally willing to show yourself. The wood god stood suspended in midair, arms behind him, gazing deeply at the Shen King Han before him, whose temperament had completely changed. The Shen King Han, with an aura of a superior being, looked quietly at the wood god opposite her, her sharply rippling eyes silent. Boom boom boom. Suddenly, from below Shen King Han, countless water elements burst forth from the ground, soaring into the sky. In just an instant, they transformed the entire sky into a boundless deep sea. The wood god was prepared for this. With just a thought, the next second, numerous emerald thorny vines shot up, interlacing into a net that could devour the sun and the moon, shadowing the sky as it enveloped Shen King Han. In the moment the giant net descended, the water elements in the sky instantly condensed into myriad ice blades, hurtling towards the giant net with relentless origin force. Swish swish swish! Under the slicing of the ice blades, the thorny vine net that could devour the sun and the moon was instantly shredded into wooden splinters drifting through the sky. Furthermore, the path the ice blades traveled left behind terrifying rifts in the void. From the depths of each rift was a chilling breath of death. Lin Zikin lifted his head to look at the sky filled with cracks, his face full of shock, feeling an overwhelming sense of helplessness as an ant would when facing a colossal elephant. So powerful! Both five elements gods are so mighty. I'm simply not on the same plane of existence as them. Having lived as a human for 20 years, this was the first time Lin Zikin felt so insignificant, like an ant that could be squashed with ease. Suddenly, his shoulder was seized by a delicate jade hand. Before he could react to what was happening, a tremendous force came from his shoulder, and the next second, he was moving at high speed, leaving a trail of sparks from the friction with the air. After traveling for tens of thousands of miles, he realized that he was being carried by Shen King Han in an escape. He was bewildered by the scene before him. He didn't understand what was happening. Just a moment ago, the two five elements gods were clashing with heaven-shaking force, so how did the scene suddenly switch to one fleeing in a panic? I'm not yet fully recovered and can't persist for long, I'll soon fall into slumber again. Shen Qinghan, who was carrying Lin Zikan in their flight, suddenly spoke in a cool voice. After speaking, Shen Qinghan continued, listen carefully, I'm now taking you to the nearest abyss. There's very little energy left inside me, and I don't know if I can make it to the abyss. If I fall asleep along the way, you must take over and carry her to the abyss. The abyss is your home ground, as long as you can safely enter the abyss, you and she can escape to life. The she mentioned by Shen Qinghan was referring to Shen Qinghan herself. Lin Zikan engraved every word deep in his mind. Then, he asked Shen Qinghan, are you the water god? Yes. The Shen Qinghan carrying him succinctly replied, her voice clear and cold, lacking any softness. Lin Zikan further inquired. Can her physical body come back? This she referred to Shen Qinghan herself. He couldn't distinguish whether the body currently controlled by the water god was truly Shen Qinghan's body. Just a short while ago, Shen Qinghan had been crushed into a cloud of blood mist by the wood god's thorny vines. Whether the flesh reborn afterwards was Shen Qinghan's original body or a body casually created by the water god, he couldn't tell. This is her physical body. The water god spoke without emotion and continued, ahead, within 10,000 miles, there is an abyss. Take her there, Her words abruptly stopped. Following that, a voice emerged that was somewhat dazed but gentle, Lin Zi, where are we? Shen Qinghan had returned. We're escaping. Lin Zikan simply uttered these words without explaining too much to Shen Qinghan. At the moment his voice fell, the qi blood and spirit within him burst forth instantly, his flying speed surged, even faster than before. The ocean had turned into a forest. All returned to defend Earth. Earth has domain power suppression. Easier to defend. Earth is the greatest abyss. The water god is a deity from origin land, who sought to devour the other four gods' five elements unification but failed and fled to Earth, died, and became the inheritance for Shen Qinghan. P.S. Begging bowl, seeking monthly pass recommendations. At last. Since Shen Qinghan was still trapped in the palace of water god and couldn't leave, Lin Zikan stood alone defending the lonely city, protecting Shen Qinghan. City number 1. Finally, Shen Qinghan with the attributes, Lin Zikan carrying Shen Qinghan, fled into the abyss. It was found to be the same as what he had dreamt. Back against the abyss, as the abyss master, he utilized abyss monsters to slay a mythical level creature, causing the sky to change and various strange phenomena to occur, leaving everyone in astonishment. The Great Battle on Earth. Nuclear weapons. The mechanically modified human enters the fray. Write about the shortcomings of genetic integrators. The genes that are integrated set the limits, they'll never surpass alien races. P.S. Begging bowl, seeking monthly pass recommendations. This book, in truth, had its story end the moment the male and female leads grew up. The story afterward was very hard for me to write, becoming more and more perfunctory, written without much thought, just wherever my mind led me. If it were any other author, many would probably choose to abandon the story. But even if I slack off, I will finish writing properly without abandoning it, that may be my only merit. Back to the content of the book. In reality, the correct way to write this book wasn't in the direction of urban martial arts but towards an immortal hero's novel. In short, it means writing with a constantly fast-forwarding timeline. For example, after the male and female leads grow up, don't slow down the passage of time, but speed it up instead. In just a few 100,000 characters, write about the leads getting married, having children, gradually growing old, surrounded by grandchildren, and then countless descendants, generation after generation. At the same time, depict various prodigies of evolution, who for the purpose of proving themselves as mythical level creatures, fall one after another, becoming but a speck of dust in their era. Sigh, it's a pity not to have written it that way. Lastly, I want to mention something very important. I really like the female lead Shen King Han. I really like the female lead Shen King Han. I really like the female lead Shen King Han. She's my favorite character created in over 3 years of writing. Well, I'm not sure what else to say. Let's talk about the new book. It's an original infinite loop novel with side missions. If nothing else, it should be released on December 1st. I hope my readers will come and support it.